The children of Israel were captured and taken to exile in Babylon. Among those captured were Daniel and his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. 4 young men who were firm in their faith in God. They were placed under the tutelage of the chief of staff as they underwent training in the language and literature of Babylon. God gave Daniel and his friends an unusual ability to understand literature, and he also gave them wisdom. Daniel, in particular, was given a special ability to interpret the meaning of visions and dreams. Additionally, God also gave them favor with the chief of staff, who the king had appointed to watch over the young men in the royal court. After completing their training, the 4 young men and the other trainees were brought before the king to be tested on what they had learned. Daniel and his friends impressed the king more than all the others, so they entered the royal service. One night, King Nebuchadnezzar had a disturbing dream. He called upon his magicians, astrologers, enchanters, and sorcerers and demanded that they tell him what he had dreamt. None of the wise men of Babylon could tell the king his dream, so the king ordered their execution. As a result of the decree, men were sent to execute Daniel and his friends. When Daniel found out why the king wanted to execute them, he went to the king and requested more time to tell him what the dream meant. He then went home and urged his friends to pray to God for mercy so that they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon. That night, the Lord God of heaven revealed the dream and its meaning to Daniel. Daniel requested to be taken to the king the next day, and he told the king about his dream and what it meant, informing the king that no one could know what the king had dreamed except for God, who had revealed it to him. Then Daniel told the king his dream and what it meant. The king fell prostrate before Daniel and worshipped him, commanding his people to offer sacrifices and burn sweet incense to him. He honored the God of Daniel, the revealer of mysteries, who was able to reveal his dream. The king then appointed Daniel to a high position and gave him many gifts. He made him ruler over all the province of Babylon and the chief over all his wise men. Daniel requested the king to appoint Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be in charge of all the affairs of the province of Babylon while he remained in the king's court. The book of Daniel continues to tell us about the bravery of Daniel as he continued to serve the king of Babylon. He remained steadfast in his faith and continued to pray despite the challenges that he faced. At one time, he was thrown into a fiery furnace with his friends for refusing to worship a statue that the king had decreed his people should bow down and worship. God sent his angel to save them. He was also thrown into a lion's den for refusing to pray to King Darius after the king's advisors, who were jealous of Daniel, devised a plan so that the king would not make him the leader of the entire Babylonian empire. The Lord also sent an angel to shut the mouths of the lions so they would not harm Daniel. Daniel's bravery and faith teach us the power of staying true to one's beliefs and the importance of courage and prayer. It teaches us that God is faithful, mighty, the revealer of secrets, and the promoter of man. He gives wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and those who trust and depend on him will never be ashamed.